Make sure you watch this entire video. Absolutely free breakdown between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Texas Longhorns. Great matchup, but we like one team more than the other here. I'm going to dig into some of these numbers here in a second. You know, before I start this video, I will say that Nick Saban last year, at the end of last year, a team that lost one or two games, they still went to the national championship game. They lost to Georgia, and Nick Saban said, this was a rebuilding year. And all the critics and everybody said, oh, what a joke this guy is, saying that, you know, they went to the national championship, calling it a rebuilding year. They called it arrogance. They called it cocky. But guess what? I think he was onto something. I think he knows what the hell he's talking about when it comes to his team. And think about it this way. Last year, Alabama against the spread, 7-6. The year before that, against the spread, 11-2, right? So you look at those against the spread numbers. This is a team that's perennially against the spread, over 60% in the last decade. But they went from a crushing year against the spread to not so good against the spread. And I was talking about this in my podcast on Bleacher Brothers. Spreads matter to these college coaches like Nick Saban, who he's expected to win every game already. So what's your next fight when you're already expected to win the game? Beating that spread as much as possible. So I think that the Alabama Crimson Tide and many other football coaches and teams are very interested in covering the spread, whereas an NFL team might not care as much, and that's why I love putting my money on college football. So yeah, I mean, let's dig right into this. Kind of already did start digging into it, but you know, the Crimson Tide they're favorites, right? They're favorites to win the national championship this year. They're solid. They're the best team that possibly we've ever seen in college football. If the odds makers give them the advantage, the odds makers give Bryce Young the advantage and the favorite mark in the Heisman Trophy. However, they deserve it. They've been crushing, like I said, over 60% against the spread. If you just bet the Tide against the spread for the last 10 years, you'd be a profitable bettor. TRAESHON, HOLDEN looking good for them also by them. And listen, they've been to the national championship like the last 3 years in a row. They missed out on repeating their success against Georgia last year. I had Georgia, by the way, in that game. But the beginning of this year, they beat Utah State 55-0, which was Nick Saban's largest week one margin of victory ever. So do I think he means business? Abso-freaking-lutely. Bryce Young looking great? Abso-freaking-lutely. Now, the Texas Longhorns, they're a typical mediocre college football team. They have ups and downs. There's always a point in the season where we think the Texas Longhorns are going to be a top 10 team, maybe even go to the playoffs. They always find a way to upset favorites, but then they always find ways to struggle, especially with consistency. They lost 6 of their last 7 matches last year, fell apart, 5-7 record to finish the season. They parted ways with some teams who signed, who moved over and transferred to Nebraska. I'm looking at some against the spread numbers here, and I'll get those to you in a second. But like I said, we're looking at Bryce Young on Alabama. We're looking at Bijan Robinson on Texas. Those are 2 players that we're really looking for. Guys, the Crimson Tide in this game will certainly be a big favorite to win every game this season. Will they cover every spread? No. But they showed in that opening match that they mean business. They haven't played Texas in 12 years, but when they did play Texas, they beat them 37-21. Not that that means much to me. What means more to me is what's happened in the last few years. So let's talk around what's happened in the last few years here. Besides the 55-0 victory last week, Texas is 0-5 against the spread as underdogs in their last 5 games. Now, they do cover well at home, but in their last 8 overall games, they're 2-6 against the spread. Not good. Alabama, on the other hand, covers freaking spreads, right? So Alabama is was 7-6 last year against the spread, which I told you already. I'm not in love with that. 11-2 the year before that against the spread. I am absolutely in love with that. I look at this Nick Saban coach team. I look at Bryce Young, and I think this team is destined. I don't think it's going to be an out of conference. I think it's going to be, if it's going to be a team that's going to take them down, let's be honest here. I mean, it's probably going to be Georgia, right? And that's probably going to be the team. If anyone's going to take Alabama down this year, that's probably going to be the team that does it. I don't see Texas doing it. Texas is not very good as a dog. Alabama just doesn't lose very often. And let's do this, okay? Alabama, play it at 19 and a half, not 21, not 20 and a half, not 20. Play it at 19 and a half. Lock it and clock it. That's the third game for today. We're going to be dropping more games either later tonight or early tomorrow morning for late night tomorrow, Saturday night, college football. Love you guys. Keep watching. I haven't even asked subscriptions. I'm off right now. Keep those subscriptions coming. Keep it all coming. We appreciate it, guys.